All right. Looks like we're ready. Ew. That was weird. I was there, and then the screen went blank. Am I still there? Or am I gone? I've had this strange issue with other video chat type things through Chrome as well. So, but I'm going to assume that I'm here. Let's see what we have. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you. I see you. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, nice to see you all. Another week bites the dust, isn't it? Well, at least that's European. In the Netherlands, the week ends on Sunday. But then I found out that in North America, the week starts on Sunday. And this is not a trivial thing, because that means that calendars are different, because they have Sunday as the first column versus Monday as the first column. Digital calendars, mainly. Keep it in mind. It could save you one day. Don't know how, but... what do we have? People was already chatting before I was there. Well. Yeah, there's a question about the Arco. I can show that, but I don't know if that person is here now or if that chat happened, say, last night when I created this video. So let's see if that person is there. If you're there, then let us know. Hello, have you tried KWZ, aka I think it's Quasi. I'm not sure how they wanted us to pronounce that. Have I tried them? Yes, I have. Some are very nice. There was one that was sort of a golden color that I remember that I quite liked, but I forgot the name. I'm sorry. What put me off them a little bit was the smell that is very specific, and very specific smells and inks always make me a little nervous. But it was they were fun inks for sure. So there is that. What is the professional opinion about the addiction to collecting and using a product such as fountain pens or collecting in general? I don't think the professional opinion suggests that it is a problem unless it becomes a problem. So, long time ago, many moons ago, when I studied psychology, we had, of course, a course called psychopathology, which is what most people start to study psychology for, which is dealing with all different psychopathologies, like what is depression and what is anxiety and how do you treat that, etc. And I always really enjoyed the following mnemonic, which I still use. The 4 Ds to determine whether behavior is a problem: deviance, danger, distress, dysfunction. And I think you can apply that to collecting of anything, in this case, let's say fountain pens, without much trouble. So is the behavior deviant? Well, I would say that in this day and age, maybe using fountain pens is a little eccentric, because most people don't, quite simply. But whether it's really deviant, all of these things you will notice are a bit open to debate, right? Okay. Then there's distress. Well, that's a good one. If it is giving you distress because you have so many bills that you can't pay your way through them at the end of the month because you bought so many pens, well, then there is a problem, right? So any of these Ds, if the answer is yes, may indicate that there's a problem. And there is deviance. Oh, sorry, it doesn't matter what order, but and there is danger. Well, I don't think fountain pens really constitute a danger, so that's probably not one box that is easily ticked in this case. And then there is dysfunction. Well, dysfunction could be an issue. If you cannot function on an everyday basis because all you can think about is fountain pens, then you have an issue as well. So is fountain pen collecting problematic? I would say most times probably not, but it can be. Again, if you spend so much money on it that you cannot pay your bills at the end of the month, then it is a problem and it becomes an issue. But then you're talking almost about an addiction. I find it very hard to believe that most people would have an actual addiction when it comes to fountain pens, because think about what an addiction really means. That's a very profound thing. And buying a pen every now and then, it's not an addiction. If you cannot go X period of time. Sorry, it's still like the caffeine is coming. Without buying pens or inks or paper, well, then that is an addiction. But then it could be a problem. But then it's like any addiction, that may require treatment. So there is that. I don't know if that's a satisfying answer, but that's what I would say, off the cuff, as it were. Hello from Russia. Hello. Well, hello there. What did you buy from Goulet Pens? Well, to be honest, it wasn't so much a purchase as it was a kind request from Brian Goulet. Well, not from. I mean, I made the request to Brian Goulet, and he said, sure, I can send you that. It is a Noodler's Triple's Tail. No, Noodler's Triple Tail. As I said, more caffeine. Noodler's Triple Tail. It's a pen which can be used with their refillable cartridges, but they were out of stock. So I have the regular piston, which is very, very reminiscent of what I remember from the Ahab. And you can eyedropper it, and you can use those refillable cartridges. It's a nib. I have my little loop. Let me just clip that on. I can show you the nib. It is a 3-tined nib, and it flexes, and more importantly, in my mind, it actually writes. This one actually writes. I've had not the greatest of luck with the Nippon sets, where some just wouldn't write and simply could not be made to write, no matter what I did, adjusting the tines, heat setting the feed. You just had to throw them out after you bought them. Not all of them, of course, but I mean, I have seen it also in a friend's who it just wouldn't write. I still don't understand. Like, it could not be made to write in any way after hours and hours of fiddling around with it. But this one, out of the box, I cleaned it properly, because they do warn that there could be machining oil on the feed, but cleaning a pen is always a good idea before you use it, I mean. And I inked it up, and it wrote straight away, and it also flexes. Now you want to see the flex, I understand. One second. Hang in there. Talk amongst yourselves. Stop talking. Not bad. And this is without slowing down. This is basically full speed writing. At some point it will railroad, but for one word or so, this works pretty well. So I'm actually honestly quite impressed. Also, the other thing is the smell. It's there, but it is I probably shouldn't do this right off my microphone, should I? Sorry. But it is much less strong than I have seen in other Noodler's pens like the Ahab. The fact that it smells is the fault of the liberals, because it is a Noodler's pen. Moving on. So that's that. Hello, welcome from Australia, Philadelphia, Moscow, the Netherlands, Sweden. We have people from everywhere. It's always a lot of fun. I clicked there. I shouldn't have. Sorry. So that's what was coming in from Goulet pens. I can also talk a little bit about something else that I got in, which I was quite excited about, and that is my Omas 360 Magnum returned. So in a nutshell, the story is this. I have the pen, I had the pen, and at some point something inside it broke, and it was sent to Italy to a lady who used to do the repairs for Omas, and honestly it came back worse than it came in. I don't know how it's possible, but that was not a successful repair. So I couldn't use it anymore because the entire piston assembly was gone. And I was contacted by my friend William, who I can't show you the pen right now because I don't have it within reach, but he's a master 3D printer, and he prints 3D. He 3D prints pens. I have that green pen you may have seen before. It's a 3D print pen he made. And he said, if you want, send your 360 to me, and I think I can print that part that broke. And I somewhat skeptically thought, well, that would be really cool. I don't know if that's really possible, but sure. And he did. And it works. And he fixed it. Now this piston is smoother than it has ever been, even when I got it. And I can use my 360 again, which is nice because it's a pen that I really, really love. It's just a beautiful, that triangular design is so beautiful. And I love it. So very, very happy. Another good week for pens. All right. Hello from Hong Kong. Hello back. Oh yes, so Mike asked, so on picture there was an Omas 36. Yes, so we just talked about that. I hadn't seen your comment yet, sorry, but yet. Yes. Again. So that's quite interesting, I think. With COVID-19, this is interesting, affecting so many industries. How do you feel the fountain pen industry will hold up? Yeah, that's a good question. I had a discussion about that with someone else in the pen industry, and just because I don't know if he was quotable on that, so I won't mention his name, but we were discussing this, and his opinion I thought was actually very interesting. He said, I think that the smaller companies will be okay. Because I said something like, I hope the smaller companies, they're going to make it. And he said, no, I actually think they're going to be okay because they're used to being a small company. And they're used to doing things with one person or two people or not with 1,000 employees, so to speak. So their costs in that regard are lower because they don't have to pay so many salaries and they can keep making pens. The question is whether people will keep buying those pens. But again, this is a matter of support small companies, etc. So I thought that was a very interesting viewpoint. So I really hope that, of course, that these smaller companies will weather the storm and we'll be able to continue to make pens. And yeah, we'll have to see, but that's kind of what I'm hoping for. The larger companies, one would hope that they have the reserves necessary to combat this. But of course, Omas gone, Delta gone, Conway Stewart gone. You never know. It remains a very specialized market. And if something like this happens, yeah, who knows how those companies will respond. I wouldn't see something like Montblanc falling over any day soon, also because they have so many products, right? It's not just the pens, also their leather goods and the inks and the watches and all that stuff. So I think they will survive. Maybe it's the mid-level companies that are not huge, but not very small either, that will suffer. I don't know. This is pure conjecture. The whole business thing, this is outside of my realm of expertise, if I have any expertise. Business is not one of them, but it's an interesting question that I have, that's been on my mind too. And yeah, we have to hope for the best, and if possible, indeed support small companies, right? See what they if you can purchase something from them or whatever. The Chinese also refer to Monday as the first day. See, so it's possible. Yes. Nice. Greetings from Arizona. The entire Southwest United States is smoking hot right now. Well, yeah, it's been a very interesting summer here. We have had, this is Alberta, we have had a lot of rain, and I think I'm not exaggerating when I say that in the past 2.5, maybe 3 months or so, I have seen more lightning than I have seen in my entire life combined. At some point every night there was thunder and lightning, which I thought was kind of fun. It's kind of nice when you're inside. And a lot of rain, some hot days, and then it was cooling down a bit. Just last week I was driving home after meeting some people later at night, and it was was like, I don't know, 10:30 or so, and it was actually 6 degrees Celsius. I'm like, okay, August 6 degrees. But then it's not uncommon here to get some wet snow in September. So slowly but steadily, it's happening. Any preference for Jowo versus Bock number 6 steel nibs? I think we've had a similar discussion before. I don't think it matters a whole lot, given that both are huge, very well-known, good companies that have, I would say, high standards. My apologies. My preference is Jowo, because I have often found them to be a little wetter out of the box than Bock nibs, but that could have been my tough luck. I don't know. But there's nothing wrong with Bock. Both make good nibs, and you can tune them or you can have them tuned without issue. The nib I sent to Mike Masayama is in Vancouver, by the way, so with a bit of luck, next time we see each other, I can report back on my Mike Masayama tuned nib. So yeah, that would be my, but really, you're not talking about a light and day difference. It also depends on what you like. If you like drier nibs, which some people do, God forbid, but some people do, right? Then Bock would be great, I think. Nothing wrong with Bock nibs. Nothing wrong with Jowo nibs. Also depends on where you buy. If you buy from someone like Brian Gray from Edison Pen Company, isn't it Brian and Andrea, like the whole Edison Pen Company, I know that those nibs they are Jowo nibs, but they get tuned before they leave. So if you buy from a company that tunes the nibs by default, then it shouldn't be any issue what you buy, right? But let's face it, a lot of the big companies do not do this, or do not do it properly, and then issues. This is a good question. So following the good tradition of me asking stupid questions, I don't think they're stupid questions, Vladimir. And you answering, I don't really know. Could you recommend a leather 2-pen case that can fit a Christoph Model 66 standard? I don't know, because that's a long pen, and I don't have one. But my go-to standard leather, you want leather, right? Remember this? Yes, leather 2-pen case. My standard is this brand. I've shown them before, from the Spek. I will type this in the things. I can't do at you, Vladimir, because yes, I can read the Cyrillic, but I can't type it on this keyboard. So you're just gonna have to look for it. From the Spek, Dutch. Literally means from the bacon, which is ironic for cow. Anyway, Van der Spek, Dutch company, Wilhelmus van Nassau, etc. So this is not nationalism, but this is a case I have had for a very long time. Because I remember when I was in my second year at university, so we're talking 2004, that's when I can pin that I already had this. So in other words, this is now 16 years old. And in my mind, this still looks as new and functions as new. There's a couple of features that I really like. It's a good leather. They use good leather, not cheap leather, but good leather. It fits pretty big pens. I mean, this is an LB5. This is not a small pen. I don't know if the 360, it's very chubby. This is an LB6, it's not a small pen. I don't know if this fits. Yeah, it fits. Even if you have something big and the flap doesn't fall down very far, like with this Arco Paragon, you see the flap falls down a little bit farther. Then it has dividers, which I can't feel if they go all the way down because my fingers are not long enough. But those dividers are also, at least they used to be, something that almost feels like, I don't think it's quite felt, but it is something soft. I have a more modern case here. Yeah, that's pretty soft too. So here's the deal. They do all kinds of stuff. They do 2 and 4 pen cases. They also do 3 pen cases. I've seen a 5 pen case that Ackerman had in the Ackerman shop in The Hague. That was a custom product for them. I've seen all kinds of stuff, and they do custom work, and that's the fun thing. So you pay a little more, but they do what you want. So this is their standard case. I've told this story before, so I'll be short. Standard case. I had a bunch of pens, like an Amiki Emperor. Okay, now the Amiki Emperor is a beautiful pen, but you got a problem. This is the problem. Okay, so this don't work too well. This doesn't fit in any case that I owned. So I contacted them and I said, hey, and they said, hey. I said, hey, could we do something custom? She said, yeah. She said, what, how big are these pens? I said, well, they're pretty big. She said, but our regular cases fit pretty big pens. I said, no. When I say big pens, you don't understand. So she talked, I'm blanking on her name right now, but she talked to her dad who makes the cases, and he said, yeah, I can't use the regular knives because it's too big, so I have to use something else, so it'll be a bit more expensive. But there you go. I don't even know what that means with the big knives, but in any case, they made me this case. And I could pick anything. I could pick the outside, which I wanted to match this one, but also the inside, which I picked this beautiful red, and you can pick the stitching. I picked the red, and this fits anything. So if you want, they'll make something for you. You pay a little bit more, but I will say one thing. You could hit this with a tank and it would survive. This is actually a somewhat harder case. May soften up a bit with use, but they're good. They're really good. I mean, I wouldn't say if you run over this with a tank, your pen survive, but the case will be pretty good. So they come very recommended. So if you can't find anything, because I think for a 66 desk pen, because they are desk pen, that's a big size, it might be difficult. So instead of saying, I really don't know, we're friends again because I've solved the problem, found the spec, and the work is top notch. I'm not paid by them to say this, but I have seen these. Aziza had one in their cases, which was a beautiful turquoise. It was very, very nice leather dye they used. And another thing with leather, sometimes the dyes rub off and you get stains on like I've had that with a bag that was made by a big company, but that rubbed off on my pants and had brown stains that will never come off, so I could throw out the pants. This has never rubbed off on anything. So they really, in my mind, they really understand their trade, their profession, which I thought was really cool. Very long answer, but I hope that helps. And maybe now I've compensated for the times I did not know. All right. I really enjoyed the love stream with Pierre and yourself. Please do keep them coming. Yes, thank you. That is, I think that's very interesting too. Thank you for saying that. Pierre and I think we have another meeting scheduled for Wednesday night. It will not be live, just like the last one was not live. But I think those are very interesting discussions because they touch on all kinds of topics. And Pierre is a very interesting person with very interesting opinions, very interesting views on things, very articulate and intelligent and eloquent, and it's a lot of fun to talk to him. If you do want to watch those things, maybe you can give me some input, because what I'm not sure about is 2 hours good or is that too long? Because I got some signals that that's long, and I understand that. So would you rather have 1 hour or would you rather have a 2 hour meeting? Maybe if you've watched it, maybe you can give me some input here as we're talking about it anyway. Do you think, asks Gijs, it's a very Dutch name, do you think Montblanc ink is worth its price, considering you can pick up diamine ink for less than 50% of that price? For me, it depends on the Montblanc ink. There are some Montblanc inks that I absolutely love. Corn Poppy Red is my favorite red, because I have not come across a red that is that beautiful and even has shading, but they discontinued it, which was the worst mistake mankind ever made. Maybe a bit dramatic, but here you have Corn Poppy Red. It's a beautiful, beautiful red, very dark and intense, but even with a bit of shading. Schaefer Red is close, but it's not exactly the same. So I love their red. I love Irish Green. I like Toffee Brown. I like their Lavender Purple, but that's discontinued too, I think. This was a Christopher Walken strange motion. I like their Lavender Purple, but I think they discontinued it. It's weird because it was so nice, but now it's gone. Anyway, sorry. That's a shame, isn't it? But then there are some of the inks I don't particularly like. Their Oyster Gray is a nice shaded gray. I'm not a huge fan of gray ink, so that's probably personal bias, but I wouldn't necessarily buy that one. But the red, yes. The green, yes. The toffee brown, yes. The black is just black. I mean, it's black ink. And they have that mystery blue. No, that's Waterman, isn't it? Mystery black. Anyway, so I forget the names, but they have their washable blue, which is nice. Almost has a very light touch of purple to it, which is actually quite nice. And then there is, and I guess now I've gone over each and every one of them, haven't I? The regular lineup. And then there is the midnight blue, which is a blue black, which is a very nice blue black that used to be an iron gold ink, but it's not anymore. I could have made this answer a lot shorter. Yes, for me they are, because here's the strange thing: in any pen I've ever put Montblanc ink in, I've been super satisfied. Never had issues, never had problems, never had flow issues. In my mind, those inks that I mentioned, the green, the brown can be somewhat dryish in some pens, but the green is very wet. The red is very wet. The blue flowed well. And when I say dry, I don't mean like unusable, but somewhat on the drier side. I've used the midnight blue, the old iron gall, a lot. I've never had clogged pens or molten feet or whatever. And then I hear from people who say, no, Montblanc, no, it clogged my pens, etc. I have never experienced it. Never, ever experienced it. So I don't really know what to tell you in that regard. For me, they're worth it. But Diamine is really good too. In reality, all you need to do is buy one bottle of SBREBROWN ink. Let's be fair, it's made by Diamine. You're good for life, right? But, Montblanc's not bad, I guess. I make a joke. We continue. Ink smells. Call me weird, but I like the smell of Bay State Blue. Yeah, it does have a particular smell. The quasi inks, as I said, had this sort of almost drugstore type smell to it, which was interesting. Yeah. Yeah, you see, so here you got the they look nice, they are highly affordable. I think we're talking about quasi, not Montblanc. If it's affordable and Montblanc, typically does not go in the same sentence. But some say they might damage pens. Yes, they I will say, out of experience, I haven't experienced it, but I have heard those reports. And typically when I start to hear those reports, then I choose another ink, because why take the risk? But again, that's me, right? All right. Are you excited about the ASC Arco version of the Omas 360? Yes, it would be interesting to see. My problem lies with the price, which I'm sure is going to be 2,000 plus US, which is a lot. So I don't foresee myself buying one anytime soon, because I have a 360 and I have Arco pens. I just don't have the two combined. It would be interesting, but also with that aluminum feed, which I think this one has too. I'm not sure about that. And I've had some talks with people about that who are not 100% satisfied about those feeds and how they perform. If I'm going to spend $2,000, then it has to perform, right? All right. I really appreciate your pen review, short and to the point. Yes, that's what I try. I try to go. It depends a bit on what I do. So if it is a like, let's say the personal pens videos that I've done, which are slowly coming to an end, by the way. We only have a few weeks left, because then I've gone over all my pens. Although I now have the LB6 to add to it. Anyway, with those, I try to wax poetically about those pens and what they mean to me. But that's the point of those videos. That's not a review. That's me talking about why a specific pen is in my collection. And then there are the reviews. But what I don't like in reviews, and this is just me, I don't like it when I want to watch the review of a product and someone first has a 15-minute story about all the steps in acquiring that product, and then I talked to this guy, and then I was at a pen show, and then I saw him, and that. I try, because even I sometimes have those kinds of stories too, but I try to keep that to a minimum. Because I think that when a viewer watches a review, they don't care which 15 people I talked to at what pen show. They want to see what I think of that pen. So for me, that matters. And that may be a bit of my nature, that it's conflicting, because I speak easily, I talk easily. sometimes too much. Like I'm a talking person. But then in reviews, I want to be to the point and make sure that I quickly cover what you need to cover, so that in under 15 minutes, you know what I think you should know about that specific pen. And I'm not trying to criticize others if they do want to have entire stories. There's also something to be said for that, because you really embed that review into your whole experience of purchasing and all that kind of stuff, which some people also find very interesting. And some people are really good storytellers and they make it very interesting to listen to that kind of stuff. But for me, a review is that. What do I think of the product? Not what were the 50 steps in acquiring that product, unless there is a specific reason to do that, which sometimes happens, like what I just said about William 3D printing the part of that 360. That is special. That's not something you come across every day. So in that case, I would mention that, which I will do because I have recorded a relatively short personal pens Omas 360 Magnum Redux video where I talk about this and the process of getting it repaired a bit, even though that pen was already in the personal pens. All right. What else do we have? I can't pay all bills and I haven't bought any pens. Yeah, then yes, then that would be the scenario where there could be a problem. Yes, and it may not be pen related. Have you considered a career as a hitman? At some point in high school, a friend and I came up with 3 jobs that we could do should all else fail. One was being a hitman. Small problem was that we had never killed someone and didn't have any weapons, but we thought we could always do that. Second was being a porn actor. They can make a lot of money, except we never had a girlfriend. And then the third thing was we could be a taxi driver, except that at that point we didn't have a driver's license. But so there always are these 3 options. They're always in the back of my mind. Like I could always. Moving on. Which notebook do you prefer to write on? Depends a bit what I'm doing. The large moleskin notebooks are quite nice. I've not had issues with, that's the A4 size, the big ones. I've not had issues with that paper. I have had issues with their smaller notebooks. But I mention this because they're typically fairly widely available. Moleskine, right? But Moleskine. Lochby 1917 is quite nice. I've recently been using the Tomoe River notebooks that come in Lochby. I have a new Lochby product to show you too. One sec. I'm just scrolling, leafing. This is analog to something. This is not my greatest handwriting, but I was writing with this in my lap as I was watching an anatomical video. So these notebooks I really like. It's Tomoe River paper, and I love these. I love these covers. I really, Lochby nailed it. Lochby nailed it. So that I really like. It's good stuff. Shall I quickly interrupt the regular program, show you my new Lochby product? I have this. It's the Quattro. Quattro is a very nice design. You have a slot here. Or something like business cards. You have a slot here with with hook and loop. No brand names. Which is nice because I could picture how you could, something you don't want to fall out, like say a bank card or something you could put in here. Then there is this. There's a little bit of a part here. You could, I guess, put a smaller pen in if you close it, but it would be on the outside. But in reality, it's a pen case. But what I really like about this, I don't know if these are going to fit because they're pretty big pens, but I happen to have out. But just bear with me here. Just grabbing some random pens. What I really like about this setup is that Chris designed it in such a way that it's 2 up, 2 down. So like that, right? And because they're offset, they don't actually, I can't really show you that, but they don't actually hit each other. So it's like the pens and then the 2 other pens, which makes complete sense. That rhymed. And then there is another, if you have a slim thing like this letter opener, there is another slot there, but that would be a very, very slim thing. I really like that. I like the products. They are incredibly affordable, especially if you look at oh, that was a triple tail, probably stop writing now. If you look at leather products, this is way cheaper, but if it's not leather, it's wax canvas. But the pricing, I think, is very, very competitive, especially for the quality. The YKK zippers, I'm assuming they still are. Yeah, YKK, so very good quality zipper. Really neat products. So I got that in. There you go. Do you have a list of pens that you're planning to buy, or is it random? No, it's mainly random, and I don't really have anything on my radar at this point, to be honest. I have a number of pens that I'm very happy with. I haven't seen anything that I desperately feel I need to add. So it's mostly random. I have to run into something and think, yes, that looks really neat. But it doesn't happen so often. Not anymore. I mainly use my pens for school, so unfortunately they'll be spending time unused. Yeah, this is... let's hope that this is going to be a temporary thing. Hallo aus Deutschland. Hallo zurück aus Deutschland. Nicht aus Deutschland. Hallo zu Deutschland. Hallo Deutschland. Hallo. Hallo. Okay, I need your help. I've bought a bunch of pens recently. The Mickey Emperor, Visconti Skylight. This on existing collection of round 15 pens, and I'm still looking to buy more. What's the problem? You're just a pen person. This is what we do. It's all right. But again, sometimes you have to pace yourself and think, well, I would like to own all these 500 items, but I just won't. Like, for example, I was looking at the Wall Eversharps, the deco bands, the big ones. I think they're very attractive. But the ones I was looking at wasn't even, relatively speaking, wasn't as expensive. Some of those were very expensive, but I was just looking at one that was about, I don't know, 700, 800 bucks, which is a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money. Not 2,000, but still a lot of money. So I was considering, but I thought, yeah, but what does it add? Like, I have an Armando Simoni Club, the Bologna Extra, which I really like, which has that filling system. It's also a bigger pen. What does it really add? Am I really going to use this Wall Eversharp deco band? I thought probably, like, yeah, I will use it for a bit, but I recently, like, I know I've shown this before, but like my LB6, I love it so much. It's so incredibly comfortable. It's so wonderful. It doesn't have the right nib. Again, nib is in the mail. But beautiful, wonderful pen. Am I going to love the Wall Eversharp more than this? I can guarantee you no. Filling system is a little fancier, but I won't. Save myself the 700 bucks or something. Sometimes that's how you have to look at it. Could you please review a Hakase pen? Possibly. I would have to have a close look at them and see if that's something, because they are not going to send me one. I'm pretty sure. So I'd have to purchase it, which means that it's something that I actually want to own. So maybe we'll have to see. I can't say yes at this point. Hi. Can you please talk about the pen manufacturers you feel offer the most quality and value in the low, medium, and high price categories? Who are the current innovators? I don't know. I have to think about that. Like, most quality and value, I think, is a very subjective thing. To some people, quality and value may have a very different meaning than to other people. So in low, medium, high, no, I don't know. This is the type of thing I would really have to think about. And I think that would be a very opinionated thing. To me, this is a very, very high quality product. But this is not for everyone. So if I were to recommend this, And people are going to say, no, but that's too expensive, and it's no, you know. So I don't know. I cannot answer this question on the fly. If I do that, I have to give that some thought. But I'm not, which is not like I'm just saying like that. I have to think about that. I mean, current innovators, I don't even know if there are many innovators in the fountain pen world, because I don't see innovations that blow me away with their inventivity or something. Inventiveness, I suppose. I mean, who is really innovating? Who has come out with a fountain pen that is so revolutionary you think, wow, I've never seen that in a fountain pen, right? That's, I mean, it's the swirly acrylics which remain popular, and the once in a while is a new filling system, sometimes a filling system that's already been used before, but that's sort of recycled and now made available again, which is neat. Well, I don't see any massive innovations in the pen world, I think. Oh, thank you, Jenny. I appreciate that. There's something on the way. Card, thank you. A question about the triple tail. Why does it have two slits? Does it make it wetter or flexier? The traditional three-tined nib was a music nib, and music nibs were designed for a specific purpose. Aziza of Gourmet Pens did a whole article on that at some point, which I thought was quite interesting. From what I remember from that, what was interesting is that the music nibs were designed to write music staff notation. They had to give a very consistent ink flow, so you're not disrupted in your composing activities. So the two tines is supposed to help with that, I think. Another thing with the music nib is it's typically a bit stubby, so you can, you have thin downstrokes. Again, think of a music note, right? Thin downstrokes, the little things and all that, etc. And also, do people know that it's et cetera and not etc.? I don't. Sorry, but I noticed this. So many people say this. It is et cetera. It's a Latin thing, not etc. Anyway, sorry. So it's also, the abbreviation is etc dot, not ect. Sorry, but like just saying. Okay. The final thing is that music nib should also be able to write like straight onto the paper, so completely perpendicular to the paper. A good music nib, which I think this one may actually do. As I said, I was quite, yeah, it does. Quite impressed. The flexibility, the softness, I think I learned from last time. That, of course, is also a property of the shape of the nib, the alloy used. So don't think that three tines necessarily make a nib more flexy. The Platinum 3776 music nib has three tines. It's a beautiful nib, very smooth, stubby, nice, but not flexible at all. That is a rigid nail of a nib. This one is flexible. So that's roughly, I would say that's about the reasoning for a music nib being the way it is. What else do we have? Is it usual to wait 8 weeks for nib repair work? I've had problems with Yardeled re a loose feed and poor nib. Pen is new, annoying as I spend a lot on Grand Viceroy Victorian. I don't know. Who did you? Oh, you sent it to Yardeled. I have no idea. I have never dealt with Yardeled's repair center, so I don't know. I mean, it is. Bear in mind, this is a very small company, so they don't have 5,000 employees who will fix your nib for you. It's very, very few people. So they probably have to do that in addition to their regular work, and I would not be surprised if that means that they take a while. Plus, it's coronavirus, so they probably also have some social distancing measures in effect. So I if it's normal, I don't know. If it's usual, I don't know. But could be it. In an ideal world, every nib wrote out of the box, but it's not an ideal world. What is your opinion about Japanese Urushi lacquer pens? Well, I like them. I think it's not for everyone. I like the ones I own. I have a couple of Urushi pens, 4 to be precise. I like them all for different reasons. Urushi has a tendency to age, so it's sort of patinas, which you can see here. These two pens started off as the same. This is the older pen, so that has patinaed and has turned from this into this, which I like. That gives a pen a sense of its having been used. This is Aka Tamanuri, which is probably my favorite finish. I like the way this looks. To me, that's a very attractive finish. So I like it. I like it. It's expensive because it's a true craft, but I really enjoy it. Yeah. Who knew? Says Elen. A YouTube reminder doesn't go off when you're doing something else in full screen. Yeah. There you go. Now you've learned the hard way. It's how it works. Yeah. 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 Can't improve society without making a few stinky pens. Yeah. I don't know what it is. So the Goulet site does say that this is a different material. We're talking about Noodlers. It's definitely there. No, I would love to be able to say they don't have the smell, but they do. It's just way less pronounced than it was, because before, if you would open a Noodlers box, you'd basically pass out from the smell. It's not like that anymore, but it is there. Much fainter than before. This I will absolutely say. By the way, what I really liked about this pen is the shape of the section. It's very comfortable. Very comfortable. Yeah. I'm not a Noodlers person. Fair treatment for everything. It's a comfortable pen. It writes. It doesn't smell excessively horribly. Has a big ink capacity. That was pretty good. I look forward to the review. How long is the usual turnaround time for a Nibmeister? There is no usual turnaround time. That really depends on how busy they are. Recently, so the nib I sent to Mike Masayama, he told me he had a turnaround time of 4 weeks. When I contacted him last time is a while ago. That is a while ago. That was, I want to say the end of 2017. He had a turnaround of 13 weeks. So there's no fixed time. It depends on how busy they are. And they will advise you on that. And then it depends on the Nibmeister. When Mike Masayama has a 13-week wait time, it doesn't mean that Mark Bacchus has 2, right? Maybe he only has a 2-week wait time, or he has a 26-week wait time. So there's no fixed thing on that. Midori versus Tomoe River. For me, absolutely Tomoe River. I didn't used to be a huge Tomoe River fan, but I don't care for Midori very much. I like the whole hipster look of them, and that they are so hot, and that everybody wants to have Midori. That's fine, fine, but they're not my type of product. I like the idea, but I don't like the paper. There's something about the paper that aggravates me. I just don't like the feeling of it. I don't like the way my pens write on it. I'm not a fan. Which is, again, this is opinionated, right? But that's what you're asking. Then for me, Tomoe River every day, any day of the week. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. The more people have to stay indoors, the better it will be for the fountain pen industry. Yeah, I suppose so, right? I mean, it's people may actually use pens, but may also actually be buying pens. Hello, Mick. Nice to stay up all the way to be here live. I appreciate it. All the way from Australia. That's very kind of you. Thank you. All right. Anyone know I can get replacement parts on my vintage Eversharp Skylines? Yeah, those are pretty popular pens, so I wouldn't worry too much. You can always try eBay. You can also have a chat with the one company that comes to my mind is Anderson Pens, because they have a lot of spare parts for pens that they sell, sacks and what is it again? Well, F-sharp. Those are lever fillers, right? So the lever assemblies probably, but also the sacks and such. They have that. It's not difficult. Like if you Google this, you will find a lot of resources that sell replacement parts for vintage pens. What else do we have? Nice. If too many companies follow, will this be a pandemic? A pandemic with an E? Yes, it will be a pandemic. It already is a pandemic. Everyone's using their pens, I think. Is there any hope that Pilot might replace the Con 40 with another type of piston converter? I have no idea. That would be a question for Pilot. I don't know. I would like to see some the Con 40, but that's not too bad, is it? Con 40. I would like to see a larger capacity Sailor converter, to be honest. I'm from India. Do you think the traditional fountain pen brands like Parker and Cross can make comebacks? I think so, if they would, but I think they are. I sometimes feel that those types of companies have become a little insulated from the pen world. They just make products to sell now, but they don't necessarily make what pen lovers really want. That could be just my opinion. But that they if you look at their designs and their functionality, I don't think it's I don't think a dual fold now to me has the same appeal as a dual fold 15 years ago that was made 15 years ago or 50 years ago, or etc. Just saying. Favorite pen stand? I hardly ever use pen stands, so I do not have a favorite pen stand. Do you know of a correlation between color in the function of memory, such as writing out lyrics? I'm an opera singer in non-COVID times in different colors to help memorize them. Oh, I see what you mean. It turns out that in Western societies like ours, specific colors do hold specific meanings. So most likely due to a long process of conditioning, we have come to associate red with danger, but also arousal in any meaning of that word. And green typically is associated with, oh, this is good, this is acceptable, etc. Think of traffic lights. So I think if you would do something, colors that stand out, like say a red or a green, may just stand out because they are bright colors that we have come to associate with certain things. And as a result, that might help your memory. Yeah. That's my I think simplest answer to that question. Now, if you have a color deficiency, right, you miss one of the 3 different types of cone pigments, and you therefore are color blind. You're not really color blind, you color deficiency. Depending on which pigment you miss, you lack a certain point of the short, medium, or long wavelength, like end of the wavelength spectrum, then the story would be different. But I'm assuming that you are not. So then I would say, yeah, like a bright red, like we were talking about before, the Montblanc Corn Poppy, that does stand out and it does pop. That could help. I would say more so than just the black or just the blue or just like the sort of boring colors that we don't associate with anything. If something evokes something, right? Like I always do this test in class with having people remember words, right? When we talk about memory, whatever stands out, whatever is salient to you, you'll remember better. So if we go through a list of words, which I do in class, like you have 10 words, I read them out 1 a second, and then you have to, then the students get a few minutes. They have to report back what they remember, right? And you have things like cupboard, window, car, pussy. Guess which one they remember. And then I always say, I don't know. I was thinking of cats. I mean, I don't know what you had in mind, but for some reason, some words stand out more, and you remember those for a long time. This is just how this works. So colors, same thing. Something that stands out, you remember better. It's just the way it is. All right. So that's an interesting question. Thank you. Why don't relatively small pen manufacturers sell their pens on Amazon? Yes, I think so. Choices, I suppose. I don't know if Amazon takes part of the profit. I don't know, because I've never done that. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But that could be consideration, right? That if you're a small company, you probably don't have a huge margin, and then you have to deal with those kinds of things. Oh, that's another good suggestion. Pen tooling. Yeah, pentooling.com. Yes, Dale Beebe. Very nice guy. And he also I think that's really cool. I have no use for them because I don't really restore pens, but he recreates tools from like the old Parker factory and all that kind of stuff, which I think is really neat. So you can buy the tools that were used back in the day, Parker or Schaefer or whatever, and he machines them, which I think is really neat. He's very sweet. Yeah. Yep. What else? Do you have any Wet n Wire's pens? Not yet. But what's his name? I'm blanking. Nabi. He's making me one to review. Yeah. So I will soon. At some point. I mean, I don't know soon how soon, but at some point. Yeah. What else do we have? How does this? Oh wait, it's the other one. Sorry. Professional question here. Open doors make me uncomfortable. I consider it almost a phobia. That much they scare me. I visited a doctor, but he said there is no such thing as being afraid of open doors, and I made it up in my mind. It really bugs me and makes my life uncomfortable. Any advice on how to live with it? Well, I'm not a clinical psychologist, so I don't treat people with, say, phobias, but in general, so sweepingly generalized statement, the opinion there's no such thing as being afraid of open doors, I would strongly disagree with, because it turns out that people can have phobias for almost anything, including my favorite, parthenophobia, fear of virgins, or little girls, which I say with this sort of maybe mild sarcasm, but it's real. To some people, that is an actual phobia. So I don't make fun of it. I'm just saying, if you can be afraid of virgins, I don't see why it could be. I also wonder how that works. Like, you're talking to someone and everything is fine, and then you find out they're a virgin. Like, I don't. But the little girls, I do understand. You could be triggered. I don't know why, but like you see that it's a little girl. Okay. Open doors are no different from anything else. It does turn out that some phobias are more common than others. For example, there are way more people with a snake or a spider phobia than there are people with a power outlet phobia, which is actually weird when you think about it, because not everywhere where I live, there aren't that many venomous spiders or snakes, but there are power outlets. I think there are 3 or 4 in this room alone. And if I take this mechanical pencil, I make this graphite come out and I jab, well, it's actually plastic, but you get the point. If I jab this into a power outlet, I theoretically could die. So in Canada, a power outlet is a lot more dangerous than a snake or a spider on average. And yet there aren't many people with a phobia of power outlets, which suggests that there might be some sort of evolutionary thing going on, that certain things that have been dangerous to our ancestors are something we develop phobias for much more easily than other things. Could you be afraid of open doors? Could you have a phobia of open doors? Yes, you could. I would seek a second opinion from maybe another doctor, or see if you can get a referral to a psychologist, because phobias can also be treated. And coming back to what I said earlier, deviance, danger, distress, dysfunction. Is this behavior a little deviant? Yes, I say this without judgment. I'm just saying most people are not afraid of open doors. So in other words, that is a warning signal. Is it dangerous? It could be, if you completely freak out whenever you see an open door. I don't think that's necessarily the issue, but most important to me is the distress. You say that it hampers your life. Well, then there is considerable distress, and there is also dysfunction, because you cannot go through life as other people would. So it's a serious problem. And yes, I don't know what the name is for open door phobia, but I would not be surprised if it exists. So in other words, I would seek a second opinion, and if possible, maybe see if you can get a referral to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and then discuss it there, because phobias can also be treated. So that would, somewhat varying results depending on the person and what it is, etc. But usually they are treatable. So I don't think it's not fair of a doctor to say, well, that's not a thing. Because at the very least, it's a thing to you, and that should be taken seriously. So there you have it. Good luck with that, because that sucks, and I'm sorry. So I hope that helps, and that can help you move forward a bit. What do I think of the Third Reich race policy? I don't think that was a very successful policy, nor do I think that is something that we would really want to have a rerun of. So no, I don't think that was either intelligent, sensible, smart, or wise, and I wouldn't recommend it. Gourmet Pen says hello. How about that? Hello, Gourmet Pens. Will the Stipula Etruria Magnifica fit in your Van der Spek Black 4 pen case? Yes. I should demonstrate this if you want. If I can find it, I do. Perfect fit. Which pen company is going down very soon? I don't know. How would I know? I don't know. What else do we have? Oh, nice. A leather craftsman here. Thank you, Tom. If it's all leather, then the liners are most likely suede. I think you are right because it does feel like suede. Thank you. That's a very useful comment. Hello, hello, hello. Is additive pen still in business? The best people to ask would be additive pens, but I think they are. I want to say they are. Yes. What else? Hello from Arizona. What is your favorite Montblanc pen? I'm not sure I have a favorite Montblanc pen. The 146, 149 are classic designs. I like those, but I don't own them. So I don't have one Montblanc that I would really go to. Okay, people say, sorry, I was just reading that, but people say that 2 hours seems to work well. Okay. Yep. 1 hour. Yeah. Okay. That's good input. I'll see. I'll have to discuss it with Pierre as well. But yeah, thank you. Oh yes, that's right. Gourmet Pens also has a pink from the Spek case. Yes, that's correct. Nice. What else do we have? Yeah, I know. I wasn't trying to harp on Schaefer Red for the record. I do like Schaefer Red as well, but I do really like the corn poppy. What's planned for the science Instagram? Yes, I had SBREBROWN on Instagram, but then I decided to also have a separate thing for scientific things because sometimes I post scientific things. Not everybody finds it interesting, which I fully understand. So there's that. The plan, I don't yet know what the full plan with that is. I think Clive has to move there because that is science. Yeah. Hello. Anyway. Sorry, if you're wearing headphones, it was probably not very pleasant. I do apologize. All right. What else do we have? True. Good point, Carol. I need to do pen reviews, Christopher Walken. Yeah, I think it would be entertaining. Yeah. Yep. It would be great if you post the audio version of the Pierre and Steven show on the podcast. Oh yeah, that's interesting. I can probably do that. Yeah. Let me look into that. But is it available, SBREBROWN? Of course it's available. Ackerman has it. I don't know about any international vendors right now, but Ackerman does have it and they do ship internationally. But then isn't the price of the ink as much as the shipping? Yes, but that's the downside of international shipping, unfortunately. But if it's something you absolutely want to own, which you should because it's fantastic ink, obviously, ta-da, boom, then it is available at Ackerman. I do think that Lay Wines in Toronto was just about to receive a shipment, so they may have it, but that's Canada. If you are in the US, that's just a blind guess because I don't know if you're in the US, but a lot of people are. Lemur Ink and Van Ness carry them, but I'm not sure if they have it in stock. Nice. In your room, everything is grey and Spartan. You don't even have a calendar on the wall. Yes, this is true because I'm not allowed to put anything up on these walls. So this is how it has to be. I can't do in Skype. You can do these fancy backgrounds, but I can't do that here, which is a shame. Anyway, green screen, etc. Do you think you would still be as passionate about fountain pens if you were left-handed? That's an interesting question. I don't know because I'm not left-handed, so I can't really imagine what that's like. I would imagine there would be more challenges, for sure. And I know that, for example, the LB5, which I love with the cross-point nib, very broad nib, that's the nib I used before to do that red writing, or sample of the corn poppy. My friend Sinister Peter is left-handed, and he always loves the pen, but whenever he uses it, he says, yeah, this is unusable to me, because he's left-handed. So I do think it would be different, for sure. Yeah. What else? I'm using Bay State Blue, and it's dedicated preppy as we speak, working on a drawing. Yes. Best thing about it, zero shading. Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's a pretty consistently blue ink, I would say. What are your thoughts on celluloid versus acrylic? Well, I will say this about that. I love celluloid. I think there are very attractive celluloids. Think of Arco, everyone wants Arco. But I think a good acrylic is really nice. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a good acrylic. So it's easy to say celluloid is always better. I don't know, it really is. It's just different. It's a different material. And there are some very attractive celluloids. But then there also are some very attractive acrylics. Case in point, this is a celluloid. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I love it. This is a celluloid. Sorry, these are two Viscontis, but it's just what I happen to have with celluloid. Beautiful celluloid. I love this too. Yeah. Here we have. This is Arco. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. Like it truly is. I love it. It's very, very fancy. The celluloid. Sorry, it's very reflective, but celluloid, of course. But then there's acrylic. This is an acrylic. I think that's beautiful too. This is one of my favorite acrylics. Or even something like this. This is a bit less. That is very in your face. This is a bit more restrained. From from distance it just looks blue, but up close you have these beautiful swirls. That's an acrylic. I love it. My okay, sorry, but like again, LB6 or LB5, whatever the different models, but this is an acrylic, diffusion bonded acrylic, but it's an acrylic. I think it is beautiful. It's one of my favorite materials. So I wouldn't automatically discount acrylic because it's acrylic. I think that's a bit snobistic to say, well, it has to be celluloid. And there's this thing of celluloid is more like it's warmer to the touch. Is it? Because if I hold this pen right now, it's warm. So, I mean, I really don't know if that, I don't know, X microseconds makes that much of a difference in how it feels. At the end of the day, if they're both polished properly, they're nice, smooth materials, there is a little bit of a different feeling. I do think that between celluloid and acrylic. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I pounded the microphone. There is a difference between celluloid and acrylic and how they feel, but if you were to give me, you were to blindfold me and you were to give me rods of celluloid and rods of acrylic and say which is which, even if there would be pieces that are polished, I find it hard to believe I'd be able to tell the difference. I really think, and I think at some point Aziza and I should do that. Like we should blindfold each other and we should just feel the rods. It's getting weirder and weirder. We should feel the celluloid. We should feel the problem is we would recognize the pen, so we would probably know. But just if you would have pieces that are polished, I don't think it's possible. I don't think you'll be able to feel the difference. Maybe if you're a pen maker, you work with a lot of material, you do, but as a user, I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope that answers the question. Can you get SBREBROWN in 1 liter chemical bottles? You know, the old blue ones. No, I don't think so. You could get it, I can get it in 5 liter bottles if I want to, but 1 liter bottles currently are not available. Is there a way to make an ink look darker? I picked up Montblanc Irish Green and was surprisingly bright in a fine nib. Yeah, use a wetter nib. I think often the wetter the nib, the darker and more saturated the ink will look. And also a broader nib might help, because a fine nib is fine. It will broader can be a little wetter, and that I think will help. It will make it a bit darker. Moral of the story: don't use fine nibs. That's not true. The nice fine nibs, I like a good fine nib as well. But try a broader nib and then see what happens, and try a wetter nib, see what happens. Yeah. Hi, great channel. I have a pen question. I bought a Sailor with a fine nib and it has a lot of feedback to the point of being toothy or scratchy, but it is a Japanese fine tip. Is this normal? Yes. Yes, because Japanese nibs typically are a grade finer than Western nibs. So if you buy a Japanese fine, you're basically buying a Western extra fine. So there isn't much tipping. If there's not much tipping, there's not much to polish. And Sailor nibs have a bit of feedback from the start. So what you have bought is exactly the way it should be, according to Sailor, of course. You may not like it, in which case you could try to smooth it out. But bear in mind, a Japanese fine, again, there isn't much tipping material. There isn't that much to polish, so it's always going to have some feedback. If you want to have less feedback, maybe buy another brand or buy a broader nib. If you buy a Sailor medium, you would get about a Western fine. That is a little bit more tipping material to polish. Maybe that helps. What do you think about the Diplomat Arrow? Mine seems to have a lot of feedback. Not sure if it's supposed to be like that. I don't remember huge amounts of feedback in the Diplomat Arrow. Usually I find Diplomat nibs to be quite smooth. But again, the finer it is, the more feedback it will have. The reason I just outlined. So look at what type of nib grade it is. I believe I'm a talking person is my favorite thing you've ever said. Well, yeah, that's true. I have to always bear this in mind when I tell people stories, that like, you don't have to share every detail. You have to be selective in what you share. Anyway, otherwise it's going to be a very long story. Oh, that's a good tip too from Kiara. If you want to make an ink darker, you could try adding the smallest drop of red to your fill, in this case a green ink, right? Because it's green's complementary color. Yeah, you could try that. I hadn't thought about that, but sure. You're mixing inks, why not? I'm using Waterman Serenity Blue. This was in relationship to the no, it's the Sailor. It's the Sailor. It's the nib. It's not the ink in this case, I think. Waterman Serenity Blue is a good blue. The Dutch will rise again. From the Spek. Once more the Dutch will rule the universe. You know, at some point, Dutch was actually the lingua franca of the world. It wasn't English. The 1600s, our golden age. If you wanted to do trade, you had to speak Dutch, not English. It's true. Look it up. But now it's not. And how glad we are, because it's a horrid language that sounds unpleasant and like you're angry all the time. I've given this demonstration before, but it's true. Take the city of The Hague. The Hague sounds very civilized. Dutch vernacular is Den Haag. Den Haag is not too bad either, but the full name of that city is Schravenhagen. Where are you going? Schravenhagen! You always sound angry. Anyway, I obviously take your showing off of Lochby products as directed and personal attack. Yes, it is, Ellen. It's direct. Ellen's package has been stuck for a while. Yes, it is. I did it solely to annoy you. Did I show you how lovely this Quattro is and how much you need it in your life and how much more complete your life would be if you were to have it? What a shame. Je vous en prie. We continue. What else do we have? Do you subscribe to Pen Hospital magazine? I'm not subscribed to Pen Hospital magazine. I've never been to the Fountain Pen Hospital, but I should go there at some point. I've just not been to New York. Really? Yes, really. Just finished reading Jung's Memories, Dreams, Reflections. Just started Richard Knowles' The Jung Cult, night and day. Yeah, Jung was an interesting person. Very interesting. Interesting person. What else do we have? I wonder for how long you can keep ink in a bottle. If you use certain color rarely and use only one bottle for a year or two or more, it's still safe for fountain pens after some time. Some inks, like the Montblancs, come with an expiration date. There is a limited shelf life. How much it matters, I don't know. But people still use Parker Penman Sapphire, which has not been on the shelves for a long time in shops. I would just be careful when inks have a strange smell or when they have strange particles in them. I have had J-Herbin inks that I put a pen in, inked it up, and when I removed the pen from the bottle, there was a string of slimy goo hanging from the nib. That is bad, because that is a growth you don't want in the ink, and then you throw out the ink because you don't want that in your pen either. It's fungus, right, or mold or things, bad things growing, so that can happen. So I would say don't own 5,000 inks, but own what you use. And I know it's very tempting to have another, but for me, that was a reason to say, do I really need to have 150 bottles of ink? Probably not. So that's one of the contributing factors to why I am conservative in the inks I use. And I don't have that many inks, but I actually use those inks and actually use up bottles of ink. That's just my opinion, though. Still waiting for Lochby to confirm their shipping internationally. Yeah, I know. They stopped that for a while. I'm sure they will at some point, but I can't say if they do. One day. Tell us some stuff about Nikaya pens. Here's a short story about Nikaya pens. Once upon a time, there were Nikaya pens, the end. They're nice pens. I mean, they're well-made pens. They are often Urushi lacquered, which I really like. They're a bit expensive, but there is a lot of craftsmanship in those pens, as is always the case in Urushi. And I like it. That's a nice brand. I don't own any, but it's a nice brand. Any real difference between the Pilot Falcon metal and the non-metal version other than weight? Even the weight is not a huge deal. The Pilot Falcon, the resin is one of the lightest pens I've ever used. You barely feel you're holding a pen. And I'm pretty sure the Falcon metal is aluminum and it's also very, very light. So in both cases, there isn't much of a difference. Beyond that, there's no difference because they use the same nib. I think they even use the same section, but I could be wrong. What else? How do I get my hands on a Monte Grappa Elmo Marshmallow? I don't know. I have to go and look for it somewhere. You sound a bit like the Knights of Ni when you do the high-pitched mockery. Yes, I do, actually. Huh. Interesting. The Knights of Ni. I should watch that movie again. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. Thank you. Clearly have a similar sense of humor. You need the O-Light open too. I don't remember in response to what point this was mentioned. I do have an O-Light. I hope we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about the flashlights, I hope. I have the O-Light S2, which I actually really like. It's a pretty good flashlight. Very hot at some point on the highest setting, but with those LEDs that you get. The Conid Casio, if they ever bring it back, is innovative-ish. Yeah, that's true. That was a good. That was a fun design. I wasn't trying to be negative or something, or suggest that there's no pen companies doing innovative things. I just depends a bit on what you consider true innovation. I think in the pen world. Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure how innovative a new design could be and still be called a fountain pen. Just the parameters of what a fountain pen is rather limits what you can do and still call it that. Yeah, there is. I think it's an Italian brand that makes square fountain pens. I won't say it's Italian, but I could be wrong. Lacquer sells them. I don't remember the name of the brand right now, but they are completely square, like hard square pens. Well, that's kind of original and new and different. I don't know how comfortable they are. I haven't tried one. I think it would be neat, but like that kind of stuff. Or think of what I also think is quite innovative is what Mazzuoli did with the that pen they have, where you have a fountain pen section and a roller ball and a mechanical pencil. You can mix and match, and that I think is cool. So that to me is innovative, but I don't see a whole lot of those things. But I agree, like at some point, it's a pen, it's a stick that has a nib and a feed and some sort of ink delivery system, and that's it. SD Dupont has one with a built-in USB stick. That's kind of neat. And you have that memory drive, but it's also a bit gimmicky. It's not negative, but like that, how innovative can this stuff really become? Right? Right. Right. Slightly off topic. Who makes your glasses? Ray-Ban. I had to check. What would be your recommendation for a large pen without breaking the bank, less than 500 euros? I have a Pilot Falcon with a soft fine nib, which I love, but my hands cramp on longer writing sessions. If you really don't want to break the bank, you want a larger pen, here's a couple of options. The Edison Collier, I think, is a nice larger model. Not the fattest section around, but it's bigger. Way beyond, that's a cross of beyond and below. Way below 100, like 500 euros. Another one that is really simple and really neat and really does its job is an Opus 88. Here's an Opus 88 Omar. What you have in the Miki, right? Yeah, I don't have an Miki here, but I can show you this. What is this, something smallish that I have? It's not that small, but here's a Leonardo Momento Zero. I would say this is a pretty normally sized pen. Is it? Yeah, here's a sort of a ballpoint that's, here's a Laban 325. So I think this is a pretty normally sized pen. And here's an Opus 88 Omar. This is a bigger pen, and this is well below 500 euro. Below 500 euros. Bigger, nice, lovely. So there are options. I would say those are two pretty good options that seem to be popular, and it won't break the bank. Do you know anyone who you can send your pen to get it done in Urushi? Yes. Mikal. I'm trying to do the Polish L. Mikal. Tamanuri Studio on Instagram. I can't speak highly enough of him. He sent me this. This is a Ranga pen. He did the Urushi. You will pay, obviously, but I'm sure you understand that. You pay for his service. But he did, in my mind, fantastic job. This is a beautiful pen. So Tamanuri Studio is the name of his company. He's in Poland, but he'll make it happen. And this is beautiful pen. I love it. That's all I can say. I love it. All right. Yeah, so you answered your own question. The way I answered too, would Mikal be able to do that? Yes, absolutely, I think. I can't decide if I should buy a Nikaya soft medium or a broad nib. Can you please help me out? Well, it depends on what you want. Do you mean soft broad? It's just a matter of your handwriting. The bigger it is, the broader the nib you need. And that's pretty much it. I've never felt that horrible smell everyone talks about. My Ahab has a nice, mild, sweet smell. Well, then that may be your specific Ahab, but I have definitely had it with Noodlers where it was overpoweringly strong. I'm not trying to be mean, but it was very, very pungent. It's not just Noodlers. I've seen a number of Indian pens that have that smell. So it's that material. Right, it's not Noodler's fault, it's just that material they used. And now they use a different material, which smells less, so that's neat if you have that issue. Yeah, exactly. JetPen said something about triple tail not being made of the same vegetable. Yeah, it's not the vegetal resin. It's another type of resin, and the name eludes me, but it's on the Goulet Pen's website. Have you reviewed or tried a Penator Back to the Future? I have not. What's your skeleton's favorite pen? Yeah, his hands don't articulate well enough to hold something, but I do have to try and take a picture at some point. It would be fun. Yeah, I don't know his favorite, but we'll figure it out. What's your PhD on? Psychology, cognitive psychology / cognitive neuroscience, depending on how you define those boundaries. But we did EEG and fMRI and pupillometry and pharmac. So I think cognitive neuroscience is, I'm allowed to call it that. Yeah. Kaveco, steel nib versus gold nib. Is there much of a difference? Yes, one is gold and one is steel. But beyond that obvious fact, the writing difference will be a little different. And sometimes the gold nibs for Kaveco, they're a little softer, not flex nibs, but they are a little softer. Their steel nibs are quite rigid. So there is definitely a difference. What else do we have? Hello, Simar. Nice to see you, albeit, not really seeing you. Yes, thank you. Someone says nice beard. I'm trying to grow it out a little bit. I have something in mind that I want to do with it, but it's not there yet. You'll see as the time comes. With Urushi, is an allergic reaction common? I was considering a pen, but was worrying about the fact that the cab thread might be an expensive lesson. Yeah, it can happen. Some people are allergic. The only way to find out is to touch one, right? If you go into anaphylactic shock, then it didn't work out that time. That's quite a severe reaction, though. I've not experienced it, and I don't know personally of anyone who has, because it's cured. So I think Mikhail told me that that shouldn't be an issue because it is cured. But that is a question for Mikhail, for example, of Tominori Studio, because he does all this stuff. So I wouldn't worry about it. I don't think Urushis are the pens that kill people. I don't think it's that, because that would be a problem. So I wouldn't expect that. But you know. What else? I want to cross Peerless 1 to 5. Can you pull any strings? Maybe. But if you go to my website, there's a 10% discount, right? So on a number of shops, for a number of shops. So there's Lacquer du Compte, which carries cross, and there's Applebaum, which carries cross. And then if you consider that, I remember you being in Australia, so I remember that, sorry, you would not pay the 21% VAT that you would pay in the Netherlands, and you get a 10% discount. So then the price can become fairly competitive, I think. A thank you note. I became addicted to Sam Webster videos. Yeah, he's very good. He's a very good teacher, but I really like his personality. He has a very fun way of. So sorry for the record. These are anatomy videos. Sam Webster. I got to him because of neuroanatomy, which he doesn't do a whole lot, but he's an anatomist, and he I won't say in Wales, but he has a YouTube channel which I think is fantastic. And what's really neat is that you always learn something. So he talks about anatomy and he shows anatomical models and he explains things about the body, but I think it's very educational, very, very cool. And he's a great teacher, really good at explaining stuff, making it simple, even if you are a layperson. Like, I like the neuroanatomy a lot. I wouldn't say I'm a layperson in that regard, but I mean, I'm a complete layperson when it comes to whatever, like the lining of the stomach or something. But he can make that very interesting and make it appealing to people, even if you don't know anything about that topic. I still find it very interesting the way he does it. So he always comes very recommended. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoy him too. Yeah. What else? This is a further comment to the Kaveco. So the steel versus gold. Got bi-color gold nibs for my bra sport and bra supra. Are they that much better than the steel nibs? No. Do I love them? Yes. Well, that's good, right? Yes, I would say so. All right. Nice. All right. What do you teach? I teach psychology in the broad sense, but given the area of my PhD, I mean, when I say in the broad sense, what I mean is I teach quite a couple of sections of our introductory psychology. So in fall, I have 3 sections of intro psych, which is always a lot of fun because you get to make people very enthusiastic about your field, which I really like. I also teach cognitive aspects of psychology. So in fall, I will have 1 section of brain and behavior, so like basic introduction to cognitive neuroscience. What does the brain do and the brain parts and how do they relate? And in winter, I also teach sensation and perception, which is about the senses. How do the senses work? Which is one of my favorite things to teach. I find that really, really neat. So how does your eye work? What are the parts of the eye, the ear, the tongue, the nose, the skin, etc.? How does that signal end up in the brain? What happens to it? How do you see color, motion, faces, these kinds of things? I find that really cool. And in winter, I also have 2 sections of statistics, because psychologists do need to have an understanding of statistics. I like that course. Students don't always. I try to make it fun, but if you're a psychologist, you want to be a psychologist. Stats is, it's statistics. It can be kind of dry. And in winter, I have a course that I have to develop from scratch, which is really neat. It's a 400 levels course, so it's a more advanced course on conducting research in cognitive psychology that I look forward to. It's going to be a lot of work because I have to design that whole thing out of nothingness, but I think it will be very cool. So I look forward to that. That's what I teach. I have taught cognitive psychology itself a while ago, but one of our colleagues teaches that now. I was just filling in for her because she was on maternity leave, but that is my field, so I can teach that. That's what I do. Yeah. Yep. That's very interesting. Chiara here is commenting on how she had an Urushi pen and her skin did start to itch. So that is interesting. So it does actually happen, and that's really valuable input. So you have to try. You have to try the Urushi and see what happens. Sorry. What else do we have? Should I resack vintage pens myself or give them to someone else and avoid the messy materials and risk breakage? It depends. It depends on the specific pen. I have found that some pens, for example, Watermans, can be quite easy to disassemble. You gently heat up the section, any shellac or whatever heats up, you can easily take off the barrel. Direct access to the sack, it's not very difficult. Those are lever fillers. Some other filling systems, button fillers, already become a little bit more complicated. And some systems are very convoluted. Like you may not be talking about that, but take something like a Schaefer snorkel. Well, they have the moving tube, and so that becomes more complicated still. So it depends a bit on the type of the make and model of the pen, I would say. And that's a personal choice. Some things you can do yourself quite easily. Some are a bit messy. There are very good books on pen repair. I think one is actually called Fountain Pen Repair. Jim Marshall. I can completely blank. Lawrence Oldfield, I think. I met him. Was that in Madrid? Madrid Pen Show? Very sweet guy. Very soft-spoken. They wrote a book that's fantastic. Spiral bound, but has all kinds of pens. Like, this is a maybe Todd X, and this is a maybe this is how you take them apart, and general information, super briefly illustrated. I think it's in edition 3 or 4 now, and highly recommend it. Pen repair is not my thing. I don't find that really satisfying, but some people find it really fun, like a satisfying activity to take a pen that's broken, restore it. And that tinkering appeals to some people. And then those kinds of books are very good, very useful, very helpful. So I would. It can be fun, but you have to figure out if it's something that you want to invest your time in, because you will also, there are some startup costs. You will need some tools. You will need some like basic things, but you will need some picks, and so there's a bit of a cost involved. Not massive, and you can take it easy, but yeah. What else? As a cyclist, I'm terrified of opening doors. Yeah, doors being open, I'm guessing, and smacking into your face. I understand. What else? As a door, I'm afraid of being open. Nice. All right. What else do we have? Good morning, Rob. Can you give the reaction which you had given in the cross-century fountain pen review? I don't remember what reaction that was. This is too long ago. I don't remember. If I would remember, I would, but I don't remember. I'm sorry. What else? I remember some American morning TV show brought a girl to the studio who had a phobia of pickles, and then surprising her with a big tray of pickles, freaking her out and chasing her around the studio with it. Other than the very problematic ethic of the silly demo, is that kind of behavior really a phobia, or is it some kind of other DSM definition? DSM, for the record, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association, is the diagnostic Bible, right? There's a lot of criticism on that as well, by the way. Yeah, ethically, I find that very problematic because you are really scaring someone, and a phobia is no joke. Like there are look at the spectrum, right? The no, I don't mean the autistics, but I mean like look at the spectrum of fears. You could be afraid of spiders and really not like spiders, and your heart may palpitate a little bit when you see a spider. But if you are truly phobic, it can be so bad that you faint when you see a spider. So playing tricks on people with phobias, I think, is very mean and is very unethical, and that's just cruel, and that's intolerable. I wouldn't like. I no. That's not something I would condone. That simple. As to this being phobia, yeah, that could be phobic. It's a very, very strong fear, and that does mean that you typically try to distance yourself from that specific stimulus. In this case, pickles. And the thing is, again, it may sound funny, but it's deeply tragic to the person who's affected by that. So yes, I would say it's part of a phobia. Yeah. I have a Ranga Ebonite 3C in black yellow on order, and I'm planning to pair this with Platinum Citrus Black and an FP Nibs medium cursive italic. Would you review it? Potentially. I'm always hesitant to accept pens from private people for the very simple reason that things can and do get lost in the mail. And I don't want your pen to be lost in the mail or damaged in any other way. So that's why I typically am hesitant to accept pens from people to review them. It's not a personal thing. It's just that if you're a company, you send me something, gets lost in the mail, that's a business risk. But if you're a private person, you've bought something with your hard-earned money, and then it gets lost in the mail, that's a problem. In my mind, that's a problem. I don't want that to happen to anyone. What else? How does the Visconti Opera Master compare in hand to a more commonly sized pen like Parker's, Pelicans, Leonardo's, etc.? Well, it's bigger. I think that's the answer. I mean, it's a big pen, so compared to more commonly sized pens, it's going to be bigger. That's really what I can say. I mean, it's I mean, this is an Opera Master, and this is a Leonardo Momento Zero. But if one is bigger than the other, then that's the main difference you'll notice, right? It's bigger. And because of this particular Opera Master having a lot of metal parts, some do not. Some have, depending on how they are made, some have more metal parts than others. This Daiken's metal, it's heavier. So that's another difference. You will really feel that. Thank you, Jenny. Jenny says that SBREBROWN ink is out of stock at Venice. Yes. Of course, these days with shipping international things, there could be some delays, so there are issues. Jenny, by the way, did you know that this? I'm just kidding. Montblanc Star Walker fountain pen for 560 euros just looks like a classy school fountain pen with a simple steel nib, but Montblanc Star Walker is the best modern pen of the 21st century today? No, I wouldn't say so. What pens are you wanting to review and need to borrow? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I have to think about that. A lot of the basics, I would say, have, over the years have been covered, right? So an M800, an M1000, the 140, these things are there. So I really have to think about that. Yeah. Can I ask which brands are making smoothest nibs at the same sizes? Yeah, that really depends. I mean, I've found Pelican nibs to be very smooth, but sometimes they're a bit over polished. I've found Montblanc nibs to be quite smooth, but sometimes they're a bit over polished. So I don't know. This question shows up every week. I don't know what the smoothest nib ever made is. I just don't. It also depends on the ink you use, depends on the paper, depends on the angle you write under. So I don't know. There are companies that make smoother nibs than others. The best thing to do is go to a pen shop and try out a bunch, or go to a pen club and try out a bunch, so that you will get a feeling for what you like. Any thoughts on modern iron gall inks for modern fountain pens? Yes, I have used those kinds of inks and I've not had issues, but I have made sure to really, really clean the pens. And I've never had issues, but some people do. If you leave an iron gall ink in a pen for 2.5 years, then that's not going to be a good thing. If you use it up in a reasonable amount of time and then you clean your pen very well, I don't necessarily see why there would be an issue. Having said that, there are pictures online of iron gall inks having molten down fountain pen feeds. Yeah, again, I've used a number of iron gall inks. Montblanc Midnight Blue when it was still iron gall. I've used the Esri, ESSRI iron gall ink. I've never had that issue, including in more expensive pens, never had the issue. But again, I really cleaned the pens and I didn't leave that in ink for months on end. So it comes with a warning. If you want to be absolutely certain nothing happens to your pen, then you can only use Waterman, you can only use a washable blue, right? I'm not being ironic or sarcastic or trying to be mean, but like if you really want to take zero risk, then it can only be washable blue inks in your fountain pens. Iron gall ink comes with warnings. This is true beyond a doubt. So if you're willing to take that risk, it shouldn't be an issue. I haven't had issues, but other people have. So it comes with a warning for sure. Yeah. Maybe that's the type of ink you want to dedicate a pen to, and maybe that should be something like a Preppy, like a cheap, inexpensive pen. If it gets destroyed, who cares? But yeah, then you don't have the fun of using other pens with that ink, right? I think that's the trade-off. What else? That's interesting. About lefties, Hebrew and Arabic is written right to left. We use pens, some of us fountain pens. This is not an issue. Yeah. I mean, I don't see why no. Yeah. It depends again on how you write, etc. Nice. What else? We have about 17 minutes or so left. Can one mix fountain pen ink? I have a very blue ink that I would like to add gray to mute it down a bit. Yes, I agree with Semar. You can generally stick with the same brand for mixing inks because you don't know what chemicals are in different brands. Some inks come with warnings not to mix them. For example, I recently heard the story, this is public because it wasn't a live stream they did, from Lisa Vaness, who had someone come to the shop and they had mixed Bay State Blue and I think base state, was it the purple that they have, and the Lamy Safari feed was molten, like it was gone. If those two inks mix, that's not a good thing. The base state inks should not be mixed with anything, including other base state inks. If you really want to mix inks, and some people find that fun, I don't see the need to mix inks. But again, some people find it fun, and I understand that aspect of trying to mix a color that you really like. What I would personally do is buy the set of platinum mix-free inks. That's a set. You get pretty big bottles. You get a little eyedropper. You get a little mixing bottle. Those inks were designed to be mixed. And then you also know that they can go together. All of them go together without destroying your pen. But then you have to buy all those inks, right? In your case, it's a specific thing. You say because you have a blue ink that you would like to add some gray to. Yeah, you can try that. But again, I agree with Simoy. I would stick to the same brands of ink, just to be safe. And some people, I know one guy in the Calgary Pen Club never cleans pens, so he just inks up a pen with another ink, and then with another ink, and with another ink. So far, it seems to have gone well for him. So, but again, to be safe, yeah. Greetings from the Netherlands. Hello, hello. Greetings back. Parker used to make some very large ink bottles. Have you seen them? Yes, and some still do. Pelican still has liter bottles of washable blue, for example. Greetings from Tilburg. I was born in Tilburg. What else? Have you found TWSBI 580 fine nibs to be scratchy? I don't know if I've used a TWSBI 580 nib that is scratchy, but again, the finer the nib, the more feedback there will be, so it's possible they're, relatively speaking, more scratchy. The Katja correctly points out that nobody actually calls Den Haag Schravenhaag. This is correct. So we sound angry, but it's not necessarily an issue because nobody uses the full name anyway. What else? Yeah. Sorry, I overscrolled. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, we're talking about the Pierre discussions. We have some votes for 2 and some votes for 1 hour. So I'll discuss with Pierre, see what he thinks too. I can't get myself to have any more than 2 inks which I use daily. Yeah, well, exactly. I think that's very sensible. Oh, that's interesting difference. The metal Falcon can take the Con 70 convert and the plastic cannot. That's interesting. I didn't know that, but that's good to know. What else? Hello from Sydney. How often are you mistaken for being a clinical psychologist? Very often, because in a lot of people's minds, and I don't blame them for that, psychology is just clinical psychology. But clinical psychology is one facet, a large facet of psychology. But there are so many other things, cognitive and developmental and social and industrial and organizational, and psychological methods are even a thing. And so there's a lot of different subfields. Yeah. What else? What are your thoughts on cursive italic nib grinds? I think they are nice grinds, but I don't actually have one. I just don't. I've felt the need, like you have italics and I have round nibs, and I don't have to have something in between. But some people do, and they love it, and that's great. But I've never had that need. All right. What else? Have you seen the Karas Customs decograph, where you only change the nib unit to change from fountain pen to rollerball? I have seen the decograph. I haven't seen that specific change, I think. But yeah, I like that kind of functionality. Is a Parker 61 worth buying? Sure. It's a vintage pen. Why not? Oh, good. Mikau is pronounced more like Mihao. Mihao. Yeah, that Mihao. No, I have the feeling I'm pronouncing it like some sort of Mandarin word or something. Mihao. 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 Yeah, I have to practice more. I'm sorry. So I have Kobe ink alternatives for both Ink Studio 123, all of which have been around for several years prior. The only reason these get zero hype because their naming sucks. Maybe also the availability, I think, because they're not always easy to obtain. Do you have an opinion on Karas Customs metal fountain pens? Yes, I've reviewed a couple, so you can check the reviews. I mean, I think they're nice pens. All right. What else? I have about 9 minutes. What else? Can you possibly do a video to add a pelican nib on a coned bulk filler? I could try, but I don't think I have pelican nibs available to me right now. So I'll have to think about that. But I can think about it, yeah. When it comes to teaching, were you influenced by a particular person or something else? In teaching style, I think yes. I think we all have had mentors that we should be very grateful for. And I've definitely had mentors, both in ways of teaching and in doing research, who have been very inspiring. Some that I've only taken classes with, and others that I've actually collaborated with, some for a longer period of time than others. But I think anything you do is kind of a product of that mentoring process. What they have taught you, how they have shown you can do things, and how they how they have sometimes nudged you forward instead of taking credit for something themselves, so that you would have opportunities. And I think that is something that has influenced me, and I think that is something that I am grateful for, because in academia that is not always the case. There are people who collaborate with others, who want to take all the credit, who want to do all that, who want to be have their name first and foremost, etc. And I have been I'm not tearing up, I've been fortunate to have those mentors who have taught me a lot in many different ways, and who have given me certain opportunities, which has really helped, and has helped to not just advance my career, but advance me as a person. And I think that's something we shouldn't forget, how those people can have a really big role in how you develop. All right. What else? What else? I think we're almost there. About 6 minutes. What is the difference between an Acacia soft, medium, and a broad? Well, one is medium and one is broad, and one is soft and one is not, right? So one is made to have more line variation and the other does not. And there is a difference in the line width to begin with. This is a good and deep question. That would be a good ending. Do our brain areas trigger senses differently if we have pre-existing belief, such as acceptance, disagreements with a phenomenon or fact, such as COVID on different items? I think the difference lies in sensation and perception. So sensation, not every researcher makes that distinction, but I think it is a sensible distinction to make. Sensation is what happens at the level of the sensory organs. So light enters through the cornea, through the lens, and then stimulates the cells in the retina. Sound waves enter the ear, are processed by the cochlea and enter the brain. That part is the sensation part. And then there is a perception part where your brain, through different levels and areas, actually interprets what is going on, interprets what you see, what you hear, what you smell, etc. That your senses can be led astray is absolutely true, which is very important for people to realize in say, the context of eyewitness accounts. We know that they are reliably, notoriously poor, whether they're visual or auditory or whatever. We misremember a lot of things, and we think we have perceived things that were actually not there. So the perception part, the actual interpretation of what is going on from a sensory perspective, that is quite subjective, whereas the sensation part is quite objective. 400 nanometers light is 400 nanometers light. If you're both in two people in a dark room, 400 nanometers light, it's going to be 400 nanometers. It's just the way it is. But the way you perceive that, the specific color you perceive that to be, that is a more subjective thing. And you'll both perceive that probably roughly similar if you don't have a color deficiency and all that kind of stuff. But still interesting. So your specific question, this kind of brings psychology into the mix as well. Like, can you actually perceive things differently? Yes. Your beliefs may help you, for better or worse, to interpret specific things in different ways. And that could make you perceive something differently. But then you're really talking more about broader perception and the interpretation of things more so than the actual sensation, basic perception, basic sensation, basic stimulation of sensory organs. I don't know if this makes sense, but like that, it's more at a higher level where you interpret things that your beliefs can make a difference. They can. This is true. Yeah. The famous case, of course, a famous illustration. I'll do this quickly because we have just enough time for this final demonstration. Is this. If you show this to someone who speaks English, and this is not perfect because I did this by hand, but here we have the and cat, and the context matters. You know that this middle thing is an H in the top example and an A in the bottom example because tie is not an English word and is not an English word either. So then it must be an H and an A, even though it's the same thing, right? So the context, your prior beliefs, does affect perception, but sensation in this case the same thing, the same type of thing hitting your retinae, etc. All right, people, we're up to about 2 hours, so let's call it a day. This was a very interesting, I think, very interesting hangout. A lot of interesting questions, all different topics, which I found very interesting. The final thing I will say, as I always say each week, because I have these questions, people tell me, what can we do to support you? Well, if you want to support me, you don't have to, but patreon.com/SBREBROWN allows you to support me for as little as $1 a month. And you don't have to. I love you just as much as you do if you don't. But if you have the feeling of, I would like to contribute something, then that is a good way to do it. You can set that up. I'm always very appreciative of everyone who supports me that way. Just I'm appreciative of anyone who supports me in any way, even just by watching the videos. That's very much appreciated as well. But there you have it. All right. I thought this was fun. I had fun. I hope you had fun. I'll try to be there again next week. There were many more questions, so we'll come back to further questions. Save your questions. Remember them for next week. That's all. I hope you all have a wonderful, good, pleasant, enjoyable week. Stay safe. That's pretty much it. Bye.